Movies are basically waking dreams. Sure, they're dreams made by someone else, but they can cast a hypnotic spell. Some movies are nothing but dreamscapes. There may be some kind of plot, but they exist mostly to induce a pleasant trauma. Dainosuke Kinugasa's A Page of Madness is one of the few Japanese silent films that survived the earthquakes, floods, and wars that decimated much of that country's early film catalog. And thank God, because it is a doozy. A bizarre story about a man whose wife is sent to an insane asylum. He gets a job there as a janitor in order to be near her. The film is presented with minimal subtitles, and even then, it would be pretty hard to follow. There's a logic to the madness, but why worry about a plot when the imagery tells the story? Kinugasa's technique is so simple. Here, he uses a transparent scrim to divide the action so that some actors appear to be ghost-like in the background. He uses rain, quick cuts, funhouse mirrors, weird acting, superimpositions, masks, and even modern dance as a means of creating his hallucinatory visions. All of it is meant to freak us out, to put us inside a madhouse, and to put us inside the mind of a madman. We are constantly challenged by the rampant weirdness. Years later, Kunigasa wowed the world and won an Academy Award with Gate of Hell, the tragic tale of l'amour fou rendered in spectacular colors. But nothing in that film comes close to the dreamlike imagery of this one. In the end, the madness is dealt with rather simply by putting on a mask. Madness is only what you show the rest of the world, so don't show it. It's an interesting idea. Vampire is relentless in its efforts to confuse us by defying film grammar. It disregards eye lines. It crosses the axis glibly, challenges our perceptions of what a movie is. Notice this camera move, which first reveals the hero entering via a trapdoor, then drifts over to an open casket, then swooshes back to catch the hero already on the move. He didn't even wait for us. There is an almost non-stop, slowly roaming camera style throughout the entire movie, courtesy of cinematographer Rudolf Mate, a big jolly fat guy whose tracking and panning camera work seemed to compensate for his own inability to move. It gives the film an unpredictable quality. Mate also shot through gauze, and one day accidentally exposed a negative to light, which gave the footage a foggy, unsettling quality. The director, Carl Dreyer, saw it and demanded that they use it throughout the shoot. Supernatural imagery abounds. In this scene, the hero sees the disembodied shadow of an evil one-legged man. He watches the shadow return to the place where the man's body sits, unable to move until the shadow and the body are finally reunited. Hey! Flip it! Then we see the vampire, a horrible old woman who died decades before. You'd think all that blood drinking might freshen her up a bit, but no. Unbeknownst to the others, she is assisted by the duplicitous village doctor. The vampire preys on young girls, giving the story a lesbian vibe true to its source material, Sheridan Le Fanu's In a Glass Darkly. Visually, it is interesting that the outdoors is just as stuffy and dusty and dark as the interiors. Here, the younger sister realizes that her older sister is definitely under the influence of both vampirism and lesbianism. Star Sybil Schmitz, a German beauty who later descended into drug dependency, plays the depraved sister. Her mixing of carnality and depravity with her natural good looks creates a memorable image. Incidentally, Fassbinder's Veronica Voss is based on Schmidt's tragic life story. The village doctor comes to see the sick woman, but instead of helping her, he gives her a bottle of poison to ingest, so she will die and become a vampire herself. The hero, napping downstairs, has a terrible dream, which warns him about the poison. Then the old handyman wakes him up just in time. Upstairs, in a hypnotic state, the poor girl reaches for the poison, but the hero gets wise and saves her just in the nick of time. Then we get the film's most famous sequence. The hero passes out on a park bench, and his spirit disengages from his body. It gets up and walks around, trying to solve all of the plot's mysteries. He finds a casket, and when he pulls back the sheet to reveal the face of the corpse, it is his. Is he dead? From the point of view of the corpse, we see the coffin lid lowered and bolted shut. Conveniently, this casket features a little viewing window for the face. In a moment of terror, he realizes that he is now captive of the vampire herself. The casket is lifted, and as the pallbearers walk to his open grave, he gets a tour of the tops of buildings. The old handyman sure looks old and moves very slowly, but he is the real hero of the movie. For it is he who opens the vampire's grave, and it is he who drives a stake through her heart. Then, her dying spirit returns to punish the doctor, who again flees and hides in an old flour mill. But the old handyman ponderously traps him inside and starts up the machinery. Huge wheels grind as flour starts to fall like gentle snow. The doctor struggles to get out as the flour accumulates around him. Eventually, it suffocates him, a spectacular punishment later used by Peter Weir for the climax of Witness. Lesbianism returns in 1955's Dementia, also known as Daughter of Horror, a twisted indie that uses film noir conventions to create an urban nightmare. The daughter of the title is a young woman who, using a switchblade, goes around killing men, like an early version of Eileen Wuornos. We see her backstory when she visits the cemetery where both of her parents are buried. The whole thing takes place on furniture dumped in the middle of the cemetery. Expect lots of weirdness to follow. She remembers her father, a fat, drunken pig who beat her. Then she remembers her mother, a total slut who cheated on the fat father, so he shoots her to death. Then, in retaliation, and in an effort to get rid of both of them, the daughter of horror stabs the father. The daughter of horror exists in a nighttime vacuum populated by the likes of this dwarf who sells newspapers. The headline indicates that she has killed before, and she most certainly will kill again. A smirk forms on her twisted face. She dumps the newspaper and walks on, only to be accosted in a back alley by some horny drunk. A big fat cop, played by the very same actor who played the abusive father, comes by to rescue her. And he mercilessly beats the drunk as she looks on, laughing. In a world without joy, all laughter is merely cruel. The newspaper seems to be chasing her. It sticks to her legs and she kicks it away. But then she meets that big fat Orson Welles guy in a limo. And at first, he doesn't seem all that interested in having sex with her. Rather, he sits there and devours a whole meal with greasy, gluttonous zeal. The Orson Welles quotes extend even to the composition of shots, emphasizing the looming foreground and the diminutive background of the scene, resulting in the type of bold-looking setups for which Orson himself was famous. Then, of course, she stabs his big fat gut and tosses him off the balcony to his death. But before he falls, he tears the medallion from off her neck, and when he hits the ground, it is now firmly locked in his cold, dead grip. She freaks, and instead of running, she pulls out a knife and saws off the whole hand in front of a whole group of people, which she later then casually tosses into a flower girl's basket. From there, she hides out at a speakeasy where a cool jazz band is playing. Some guy tosses her a cocktail dress which immediately envelops her, and she struts around looking sexy and sophisticated. A big change from that frumpy suit she's been wearing. She dances to the world's most stoned band. But then the cop shows up and holds up incriminating handcuffs. The crowd points at her with j'accuse intensity. She has been exposed for her murderous crimes. Even dead Orson shows up to haunt her. And an intense montage recapping all the good scenes takes place, with some gnarly hands thrown in for good measure. She wakes with a start. Was it all a dream? Well, the severed hand in her dresser suggests otherwise. Then there is Begotten, an experimental feature film from 1989 written and directed by then theater director Elias Merhaj. The footage is high contrast and hard to define. What on earth are we watching? First, it's hard to make out what's happening. Secondly, there is nothing, no dialogue, no characters, no scenes, that would give us any clue as to what's going on. The synopsis suggests that a god commits suicide by eviscerating himself, thereby giving birth to another god who gets pregnant with his post-mortem seed. Then she gives birth to a messiah who is dragged across the countryside by some post-apocalyptic druid types in cloaks. Lots of grasping and clawing and writhing and agony. I assume that's the movie's religious part. It doesn't really make any sense, but does a movie ever have to make sense? What do we feel when we're watching these scenes? Is Begotten a horror movie? It certainly looks like one. Discovered and championed by Susan Sontag, it eventually played many film festivals and was released on home video, where it became a cult sensation. Marriage went on to make 2 more features, the respected Shadow of a Vampire with Willem Dafoe, and the serial killer drama Suspect Zero. But Begotten, with its cricket soundtrack and gobs of black and white gore, remains his most dreamlike work. I think it is interesting that all these films and other Dreamscape movies like Un Chien de Loup, Carnival of Souls, Eraserhead, Archangel, Tetsuo the Iron Man, are all in black and white. It's like color is for musicals, but black and white is for nightmares.